now again, I want to select this column. In the continuation, we can specify the material as you can see, and then in a structural group, we got top attachment type. For instance, we can set it to distance. And if we set it to distance, then we can specify the distance of top attachment. And if we specify 0, then it will be connected to the top part. Watch this. Again, the column style, we can set it, check it out, or I can set it to ratio and specifying the top attachment ratio. For instance, let me check the length of the frame. Watch this. The total length is a range between 0 to 1. If I specify 0.1, watch this. If we set 0.5, then it will be connected to the half or to the center of the framing. 0.5, and then I set it to distance for hundreds millimeters. Watch this. The next one is top attachment reference. We can set it to end or start. Watch this. Or you can set the attachment reference to top or the bottom. And if we set it to top, then we can set the end or the start as the referenced end. And if I set it to start, the end reference will be changed. I set it to end. The next one is our top connection and base connections. This does work out in coarse detail level. I set this to isolate. For example, we specify the connections that we want to use them for top and base. Watch this. That we can use some symbols here. Check this out. 1 to 200s. Again, I select. And right now, since we are working in the floor plan level, we don't have access to the symbols. But we can create the symbols in the family environments and then replace them here. But note that we will talk about the connections and the symbols. However, we have instructed them comprehensively in our Revit structure course. But note that if you are an architect, you got nothing to do with the top and base connections, because it is specialized for the structural engineers and who are using the structural discipline, and they can use this for displaying the connections using symbols. But if you're interested, you can get the Revit structure course and watch the videos. And in the continuation, we got volume and the associated elements. Watch this. None of them has association, as you can see, and the rest of them are repetitive. I open edit type. Here, as you can see, we got some properties related to dimensions and structural analysis. And note that here, if we change the values, they get no effect on the elements. But you should note that these are used for the connections in a steel, so we got nothing to do with them here. But in structural section geometry, as we click on them, you can check the previews, but you can use them for changing the dimensions of the structural columns. For instance, in the concrete columns, we do not have the steel columns properties. And also here we specify the rebar cover that we have talked about in the structure. And in edit type, we got B and H for the dimensions. Right now we're done with how to adding the structural columns in addition to their properties, actually instance and type. Then in the next part, we want to learn how to create their families in Revit. See you next session.